And go.
Hello everyone, hope everyone's okay. Today we are talking about the gut and the brain. And I'm going to pass over to Desi because she can explain this a little bit more because I'm just new on this, so I'm just starting to learn about this. So yeah, over to you, Desi.
Before Desi leads in. So what are you saying? Are you saying that what the gut's got to do with mental health, or what?
Yeah, so the gut and the brain together combined with mental health, yes.
Right. So like what you eat can make you feel better.
Or worse.
Or worse, yeah. So we're gonna
or what you don't eat.
So Desi will explain a
It's got my porridge here, look.
more of an understanding once Desi's explained a bit more. So go ahead, Desi.
Oh, hello everyone. So I'm going to be following my little notes here on the screen. So if it sounds like I'm reading, it's true. I am. But recently I watched this, it's still going on actually at the moment of the time of this recording on the 23rd of February. It's still going, this documentary that's just fascinating on the topic of the gut-brain connection and how if we want to sort out our mental health, it's not just a matter of going and checking out what's in the brain, but it's actually looking at the gut first, where the majority of our issues actually start. So let me start with a question. Now, most of you, also the viewers, have you got a pet? And when your pet is under the weather, it's not feeling or it's not acting as they normally would, and you take them to the vet, what's the first question that the vet would normally ask? Have a go. What do you think, guys?
Diet.
No.
What have they?
Has he opened his bowels this morning?
Well, yeah. So, Ellie, what did you say? What have
they eaten today?
What have they eaten today? Yeah, it's interesting, you know, how the vet knows exactly what to ask. That right question. Well, interestingly, the human doctor or the GP wouldn't really ask you what you have been eating when you go and say, well, I'm depressed these days. I'm not feeling well. I'm anxious. I know this for a fact because when I had my period of mental health issues, it wasn't right after my divorce. It was a little bit later on. It started to catch up on me and my job, and I was really stressed. They never asked me about what my diet was. They just said, well, stay home, take a break. They never asked me how I was eating. Maybe that was a good thing. You know, the stress is a big part in the whole picture. But yeah, then nobody has ever asked me what you're eating when I go to the doctors. But
the
anyway,
thing is though, there's they could ask a dog to stay at home, and it's not going to do that, is it? It's partially the language barrier, but but I think that then they have to look at everything else, but like trying to communicate in a normal sense. So, you know, I think vets, they have to look at other clues. They can't ask the question.
Yeah, they can't. But that's actually the main question that should be asked to any living creature. That's what my point here is. We have kind of, because we are thinking we are so special, we have forgotten about the basics, our gut. Well, if I carry on reading through my notes,
yeah, go ahead.
One out of 5 people apparently suffer from anxiety, depression, or both. No wonder that for many, conventional medicine offers little relief. Instead of feeling better, many people just get used to feeling how they are, like not very well. So what if there was another option, a better option? And here we're talking about some good news. So I want to invite you to look at the gut for solutions to anxiety and depression. And this is because common gut problems can cause and perpetuate most mood disorders. So the good news is that by healing the gut, we can support our mental balance and relieve symptoms of anxiety and depression. So we mentioned about the gut-brain connection, but it's actually quite powerful, a very powerful thing. So what is happening in the gut gets reflected in the brain. So we're talking about brain fog, inability to focus, restlessness, anxiety, depression, all of them stem from the gut. And it could be just a simple issue of some food intolerance or food sensitivity. Maybe there might be a subtle infection when it comes like overgrowth of yeast, bacteria, parasites, even viruses. And there could be some inflammation or leaky gut. What we call also this is also called intestinal permeability or dysbiosis. Sounds a little bit tricky, but it's actually quite we'll kind of break it down, make it simple. So this connection, the gut-brain axis, connects the gut and the brain. And these two parts of us, the brain and the gut, are like these two best friends, two buddies who work together. You can't really separate one from the other. They're completely interconnected. And in what ways are they interconnected? So first of all, the entire digestive system, I didn't know this, but apparently from the mouth all the way to your bottom, all of this is your gut and everything, your stomach is connected, is lined with this so-called enteric nervous system. So it's these dense set of nerve endings. And actually there's more of those nerve endings than there is in the spinal cord. So it's a very elaborate neurological system, and it's connected directly to the brain through the vagus nerve. Also, the immune system has a huge influence on the brain, and it's about 70 to 80% of our immune system is generated in the gut. And then also, this is the most fascinating one, what I found, well, at least to me, is they're connected through the circulatory system.
That's easy for you to say.
It's the bloodstream. In the gut, there are these
circulatory. Was that circulatory system? You remember?
Well, the one that's the blood that moves around.
Yeah.
Circulates around blood. Apparently, there are things called neurotransmitters, and for example, one such thing is, for example, serotonin, which is our happy hormone. It's a neurotransmitter because it kind of connects the neurons in the brain, and it kind of makes you feel happy. So that's serotonin and other similar ones to that, these neurotransmitters, they're all made in the gut, and then they enter into the bloodstream and affect your brain. So the gut is either the biggest supporter of the brain, or it can become the most toxic thing for the brain over time. So over 30 of these neurotransmitters are produced in the gut. 30.
That's why they say you can never be unhappy when you're eating.
Well, it depends what you're eating, because you might be really in pain. And 90 to 95% of your serotonin is produced in the gut. Maybe that's why you're saying you're happy. Most of the serotonin is produced in the gut, not in the brain. The happy hormone.
Yes, I know. So that when I was watching the video on it, that's one thing I do remember. Yeah, there's more happiness in the gut than there is in the brain.
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, it's produced in the gut, but how does it manage to get into the brain, and does it actually work in the brain? We'll go to that later. And let me just go on to my next page here. So when you suffer from damaged gut, you develop symptoms such as, we said, anxiety, depression, but also PTSD. Could be the reason for autism.
Yeah.
We have such a huge burst of autistic children nowadays. It's so common nowadays. When I was growing up, it wasn't happening. It wasn't. There was nobody who was autistic in my circle of friends. Now there are autistic children everywhere. Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, just to name a few. And that's all because we have from a young age, we have damaged our gut.
I mean, some people would say we didn't have the labels back then to be able to label people as autistic. We just thought they were odd. And
but they weren't odd people. I don't remember having anybody like that.
Well, maybe you didn't exclude them or whatever, but I know some odd people at my school. Well, and I now look back and I think, well, maybe they were a bit on the autistic spectrum.
I think we all are in some way, shape, or form. It's just, like you say, people have been given labels to identify.
Well, they get diagnosed.
People seek out labels. That's
to understand themselves.
And Parkinson's disease and stuff like that. Like maybe they just had one or too many gins or whiskies. That's what people used to think.
No, but high functioning autism is one, and then there is the people who are completely focusing, their brain is scrambled, and they just need their brain just works in a different way because of the gut. And if there's so many examples of children whose parents start addressing the gut and giving the proper supplements and food for the brain, and that autism can be completely like it's a different child from
you know that film about the decoding thing, that guy that was
the Imitation Game.
In the war. Yeah, he was definitely autistic.
Yeah, but he wasn't. No, we're not talking about this type of autism.
No,
we're talking about this other one where there are tantrums and meltdowns and things like that.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a misrepresentation, or there's a blurriness now between what's perhaps happening naturally versus what's being caused by sort of a deficit in our diet in some capacity, via nutrients or vitamins, and you don't know where the line is. You don't know whether it's been a cause or whether it's naturally happened, or whether it's a behavioral thing that could have been learned, some kind of learned behavior from something missing at home. So it's hard to identify where it might be, but certainly looking after your diet, you can eliminate that as a do you know what I mean? You can.
But this is all very well and good, and none of this information is bad. It's all tip top. But most people struggle to know what to do about making a soup. Right? They struggle to know, well, what do I need for the soup? How do I make it? What kind of tools do I need? It's easier to just go and buy chicken nuggets and whack them in the oven. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so easy. So whereas I totally agree in the importance of what you're saying, the application of this information into real world scenarios is a tough gig.
It is a tough gig, and it's not just about learning how to cook soup. It's also, it might not be that your body might not tolerate soup at the beginning. You might want to do something else.
Yeah.
It's a complex approach. It's not just a matter of, okay, I'm gonna start cooking soups and I'm gonna be feeling better. It might not be that way. There is a whole big, like a variety of approaches how you get about dealing with your gut.
What you're saying there is it's even more tough.
Well, it is, because first you need to get aware that you might have lots of toxicity around you. You might need to start removing the toxic stuff around. We'll talk about this, why that's important. But even if you keep putting toxic stuff on you and you start cooking soup, it's not going to make you feel better, is it? Because you're still poisoning yourself with other things. So there's you need to think about the whole of your life and realize, where is it that I'm harming my gut? How am I disrupting the microbiome, which is my next thing I'm going to talk about? And what can I do to actually then help it? And that will include learning how to cook soup, but it will include lots of other things.
Yeah.
I think that from touching on to what Dad said just then, it's about application, and I think we live generationally at least, I don't think that it's bore much importance as I've grown up. You know, it might be different from person to person, but there wasn't much importance, or there wasn't much education on how important the diet actually is.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah.
How important it is to get your vitamin C in, these macronutrients that your body needs in order to thrive and in order to support your mental health. It's not something that's really readily shared. So when you start looking at what is it that my body needs, you have to then educate yourself, and educating yourself is difficult when we're rushing around working and So you have to then learn how to cook the things that your body needs. No less, you have to find out what it is that your body needs, because we're all a different operating system, and we all function differently, and we all live in different environments, like you said, Desi. And so our needs on a nutrient level, or on a biological level, are different, because we're in different settings, we're in different surroundings, we've got different things going on. Our bodies are going to react in different ways, so our needs are going to be different. And that's where it's difficult to get the application, because you can go online, you can read something, and you can say, oh, I'm going to try that, and then it doesn't work and it doesn't help. And
well, that is why there are these for people who are severe cases. You know, it's not a matter of just trialing it out and seeing what works. Sometimes it needs to be done by a professional. We're not saying you need to do this and that. We're not doctors here.
Yeah.
But there are these functional medicine doctors who know how to say, for example, if you have heavy metal toxicity in your body, it's not a simple thing as like, I'm going to start eating soup and it's going to deal with it. No, it's a matter of proper elimination, cleansing, opening up pathways and whatnot, you know, making sure that you're pooping and you're weeing and you are sweating and your liver's working and everything. So it's not just a simple thing. We're just here, we're just pointing people's attention into thinking that actually it might not be that I need medicine for my brain. I might need to look at my diet.
yeah,
there are simple changes that people can make just to do with their diet. But if it's like more severe cases, and if just a simple case of the diet change is not working, then obviously there might be other things like mold poisoning. If somebody has been exposed to mold, that can be severe problems. That can cause lots of disruption to the gut, and then obviously to the brain.
Yeah, I
so
think
it's not really clear cut. You do this and you do that, and it's because we're all different.
Well, we live in a world where people want answers. They want answers, and they want prescription, and they want to not have to do the work. Right? Right. This is the world we live in, isn't it? It's like,
well, it depends. If it's the pain of suffering is more than the pain of doing what they're told with the changing their diet, then they will do.
oh no, absolutely. But like, you know, if you're told by the doctor to stop smoking because you've got lung cancer, right? There's an absolute black and white, right, carry on smoking, you're going to die. Stop smoking, you might not die so quickly, right? So it's like, if I want to extend my life, I stop smoking straight away. And there isn't, all excuses about, oh, it's difficult, whatever, right, are just gone. They're out the window, because actually we fear death greater than we fear the loss of a cigarette every now and then, right? So, but when you're talking about diet, right, and the complexity of the situation, right, it's so complicated. You're right, it is complicated, right, and it's filled with all sorts of terminology that people struggle with, like microbiome, right? What the hell's a microbiome?
I'll explain what it is.
No, I know you'll explain. Right? I know you'll explain, right? And this is no criticism of what you're sharing. This is just saying that down on the street, in the hood, right? It's like where people are trying to make sense of, okay, what I eat is important. I know if I don't eat, my brain goes mad and I go crazy, and I'm intolerant and I'm angry because my brain's saying, my gut's saying, oi, feed me, right?
Yeah.
And that's just the simplest example of how your mood can be whacked really easily if you don't eat when your stomach says I'm hungry, right? It's just a basic one, isn't it? We've all got it.
Hangry.
Yeah.
You're hangry.
but then it's like, well, okay, now what you're saying to me is everyone's different, right? So how the heck can I go to a like a resource online, Google, like what's good for Chris Ogle's stomach, right?
Well, Chris Ogle's stomach will tell Chris Ogle what's good for
If
This
I
is
know,
this
stomach.
is no.
if
This
I
is what I
know
was
how
saying.
to look,
This is exactly the point. Is it's about raising that level of awareness in
Yeah.
terms of and not getting bogged down with, like, if something doesn't work and it doesn't
Yeah.
equate to being the solution, don't go, oh well, I'm going to give up. It's like when I had Miko, my cat, and he was going through some allergic stuff. What we had to do is we had to manipulate and change the diet, and we had to give enough time to be able to see how that diet affected the allergy and what his issues were. And then if it didn't work, we adapted again and we tried something different. And that's all it is a continual acceptance that you're going to have to adapt as you go through life. One of the
I
other
reckon
things,
it takes about 2 weeks for that to happen. I reckon, in my case, it might take months.
Well,
see
it takes not just one day to become ill. It takes a few weeks, maybe months, years to get ill. So you can't expect to get better overnight.
No.
It's just how it is.
I think the other thing that I wanted to touch on as well, because it sort of similar to it, is that you were saying, Dad, that people, you know, down on the street, people find it difficult because, you know, there's not. It's like you have to. It's almost your own responsibility. You know, there's nowhere that you can go for the solution. You've got to test and adapt, and you can find out that, you know, eating oranges and fruit and all that stuff supports you. But what I think people get to, especially on a nutrient level or when it comes to food, is that they use it as a source of a serotonin boost or a dopamine release, in which they're eating foods not because of the nutrients that it provides to the body or the good stuff it puts into the body, but for the fact that it makes them feel good. And that's not a motivating factor. You know, you're going to buy the things that and then that doubles down, because then you know what you should be eating. You know that you shouldn't be eating this stuff. And then when you talk about the connection between the microbiome and the gut and your brain and your mental health, it's like, if you know that you're not eating the right food, like, what do you think you're telling your brain? You know, subconsciously you're telling your brain that you've still not completed that step where you're motivated or accepting responsibility for the fact that you've got to control what you put in your body, lest you are what you eat, you know. And if you're eating crap, you're going to feel crap.
Yeah, I mean, Otis, sort of going from what you just said then, like, if I feel a very low mood one day, I will eat absolute shit, and then I feel
make it worse. And
then I feel even more shit.
Yeah,
I know people who say, I feel really crap today.
Yeah.
So I've got a cold coming, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to bed with a bottle of whiskey. Exactly.
And this is the thing, that's what happens. It does happen. So if you're not feeling great, you tend to eat the foods that are not so great with you. But if you're having a good day and you wake up and you have an orange, you know, at first thing in the morning, and you're having a good day, you tend to eat more of healthier things, and you know what is good for your body. So, you know, you can never, you know, it's always going to be up and down, you know. I mean, I try in my hardest to eat the things I know that are good for my body, you know, but I do have the odd day where I'm binging out and I'll just have, you know, a lot of crap food, but it doesn't actually make me feel any better. But what it does do for me, the next day I go, oh my God, I am not doing what I did yesterday. I'm going to eat healthily.
Well, like, you know, eat a chocolate orange, because, you know, orange has got vitamin C and it's good for you, and chocolate's good for you as well, right?
Well, they do say if you have one cube, they did say this years ago, I don't know if it's true, but they say if you eat one piece of cube of chocolate every day, just one cube, which is not a lot, they say that can help with the endorphins, like the happiness and stuff.
You have to make sure it's 85%.
Yeah, so it's got to be a proper chocolate. Yeah,
by the way, there are other brands.
Well, I don't know whether your microbiome will like the sugar in that chocolate, because
there's no sugar in it hardly, because it's like
it's real cocoa. So like if you have one cube, it's meant to help, but it's not going to. I don't think it's going to be problematic for your health and your body. I think No.
It's dark chocolate, 85% cocoa, hardly any
Yeah.
sugar. When you're eating it, the reason I like it is because it's not sweet.
Yeah, I actually prefer dark chocolate.
And that brings me to the
nowadays.
sweet, sweet. Why not sweet? Why is sugar bad for you? Because it actually feeds the wrong type of microorganisms. We're talking about microbiome. What's the microbiome? I promised I'm going to explain what it is.
Explain.
It's a collection of microorganisms that reside in your gut, assisting with digestion and producing nutrients. Actually, did you know that each of us has a distinctly unique microbiome? In fact, in many ways, it is our microbiome than our DNA that makes us
Here we are.
so uniquely individual who we are.
Huh?
There are trillions and trillions of these microbes that are part of you and me, every one of us, and they actually outnumber our human cells. They cover us from top to toes, from the top of the head to the bottom of our toes, to the front of our toes, whatever, top to bottom. And they're all on all our external surfaces, including the inside of the gut, which, if you think about it, is also another external surface for us. This is where we are in contact with the environment, with the food. So these trillions of microbes have important roles. They're critically important for the digestion. They're connected to the immune system, regulate our metabolism, balance our hormones, affect our brain health, and they even affect the expression of our genes. And talk about genes, actually. The Human Genome Project, they were excited when they, had their big microscopes. They could see the genes and everything. So they were on a mission to discover all the human genes. And they were thinking, we're going to now be able to tell about disease, and we're going to be, on top of our game. However, what they discovered was a bit of a shock. So the human chromosome has 22,000 to 24,000 functional genes only. So this is what makes us human, 22 to 24,000 functional genes. They were expecting a lot more, but that's all they found. Now, you think this is a lot of genes. Gosh, that is a lot. But if you think about an earthworm, how many do you think are the genes in an earthworm?
Well, earthworm wear genes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
Any idea?
I'm going to guess 120,000.
Wow, a little bit less.
Oh.
38,000.
Oh,
38,000. It's just a worm. It's got like what, 22, 24.
You can't just turn around and go just a worm. Worms are really, really important.
But we have this, we've how we've evolved, and okay, well, let's see. What about a rice plant?
A rice?
17,000.
30 to 40,000.
Oh my gosh.
So you have less genes than a earthworm or a rice plant.
That's mad.
So how have we been able to create all this consciousness and advancing in our spirituality and whatnot? How have we done this?
I'm going to guess at this, the gut. The gut.
The gut. The microbes.
I reckon the microbiome. Something in that area.
We have over, now this is an astounding number, we have over 2.5 to 3 million microbial genes in our system. So we have about 120 times more microbial DNA than human DNA in our system.
Oh my goodness.
The microbial genetics in our body accounts for 90% of our biochemical functions in our body. So 90% of what makes us human comes from the microbes in our system.
I read something, Desi, I think you can confirm this, but I read something like your body over the course of 7 years, I think it's 7 years, is it? You rebuild everything that makes you who you are internally.
Less than that. I think
Less
it's
than that.
in 7 years if you include bones and everything.
Depends what tissue
You
you have.
recycle everything, don't
It's
you?
80% of everything in about 8 months or something. It's like,
Oh, really?
but what you replace it with is what you put in your mouth.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are what you eat. It takes a whole.
Well, that's where that phrase comes from, then maybe.
Yeah, but what you were saying there, Desi, is that most of the stuff that's inside us that makes us unique isn't actually ours.
No, it's not. It's all the microbes.
Which may lead us on
And
to
the
another
thing
question,
is,
which is actually our what is actually us is just our
Who are you?
consciousness. It's got nothing to do with this body, which is made up of external stuff mostly.
Yeah.
I was listening to a little bit, and I think this maybe can come into it as well. And some people don't like it, but some people do. But Bruce Lipton, and he was talking about. I was watching something the other day. I think 2 years ago, or in 2018, they discovered a cell in which they, as things happen to you on a sort of like cellular level, what's around you in your environment has a direct effect on like your perspective almost, because the things that are coming in are changing and shaping what you even do.
The expression of your genetics.
Yeah.
Cause and
I don't
effect.
fully understand it.
Cause and effect. Like we are in a constant state of transformation, which is cause and effect. So if stuff's happening around us, it's going to have an effect on us, whether we're aware of that effect or not. We will be affected by it.
Yeah, and it changes your mood and changes your fascinating.
So the problems with this microbiome can result in all sorts of illness, which is interesting because the better the microbiome, the healthier we are. But the less of the microbiome we have, the worse we feel, which is really interesting. We were talking with Chris today about what is the purpose of humans on this planet. And as I was writing these notes today, I was thinking, actually, there's something quite different to what we were thinking earlier. I don't know what it is, but it seems different having all these numbers into my notes here. So what could these problems be with the microbiome that result in illness? So first of all, lack of diversity. We need to have approximately, well, in the olden days when people were, gatherers, hunters, gatherers, they used to have 300 to 400 different species of microbes in them. That's where their hands were in the soil, picking roots, eating dirt, and whatever. So they had a real diversity then. And now the average Westerner has 150, 120 at best. So about not even half of the variety that makes us to be at our optimal health. So first of all is variety and diversity. Then there's a significant loss of some keynote strains. So there are these different special strains that actually support the rest of the ecosystem, and they are responsible for quite a lot of if they're not there, they're responsible for the development of all sorts of illnesses, including cardiovascular and all sorts. So when we lose these special significant keystone strains, it just is difficult to get the rest of the microbiome. They're like the pillars, and then the rest hang around. And as a result, we can also have this severe, well, not as a result, but they could have also the severe leakiness in the gut or dysbiosis. This is where there is apparently on the lining of the gut, there is a one cell lining, and these cells are like that, connected, like tightly packed with each other all around. And when there's inflammation and maybe food sensitivity or something, toxic metals and heavy metals and whatnot, like bad bacteria, they cause inflammation. And so these cells swell up. And as they swell up, obviously the junctions, from tight junctions, they become gappy. And so through here, stuff can leak through. So it could be endotoxins, toxins made from the bacteria that are not supposed to be there.
Desi, So that when that's happening, does that mean, is that what, like, to explain it a bit more simpler terms, is that like, you know, if you get like a little swollen stomach sometimes or and stuff, is that what that's doing, or am I wrong?
Well, that's more of a constant, if you have a constant irritation, you might not feel it as a pain, but it's just a constant, you can feel it in your brain, because you have, when these are leaking, these things, you know, these tight junctions are not tight anymore, the things are leaking through, and through the bloodstream they go in the brain, and you feel headache, focus is not so good, it's like you have cobwebs in your head, or you're starting to feel depressed.
Basically stuff that's being processed in the gut should stay in the gut.
It shouldn't, it should be taken out, it shouldn't be leaking out. It could be protein pieces as well, and as they go out, the immune system says, all right, this is not supposed to be out here, this is not part of us, we need to attack this. So all sorts of problems.
So so there's part of that as well, isn't there, like with the microbiome. So something that I do, I don't know whether you can see it up there, that is kombucha brewing. Which I've been doing now for, I think, since Christmas, religiously every week. And something that you notice is that your body goes through, like, something that I notice, like if I know that I've eaten poorly, like if I've been eating some chocolate or some crisps, or, you know, maybe something more potato based that's not got some greens in it or something like that, you notice it the next day, you feel a little bit more stodgy, a little bit more, even when you eat a meal directly afterwards, if it's quite full, you know, you can feel that tiredness going through you. And I read somewhere, I think there's a guy that I follow called Zach Bush, who talks about the microbiome and the importance of our, you know, when you think about us on Earth and the fact that we are part of this biological, like, breathing kind of, you know, when it gets cold in the winter, that's when we get more illness, right, because of what's happening in our environment. So when you're putting bad food in your body, your microbiome, does it create the bacteria that it needs to create in order to deal with those bad types of foods, which means that you're making your gut create the bad bacteria, in order to deal with the foods that you're eating that are not got the right vitamins or nutrients in it. Whereas if you feed it with the other stuff, and I've noticed it, we have that transition where your stomach feels like it's doing somersaults because it's having to create a different environment, deal with this shift that you've had to your thing. And that's where I think you can get inconsistency, is people sort of, you don't feel immediately better. You actually feel a little bit like wobbly, you know, you're having your body's trying to adjust to this difference. And I think that's where you get that yo-yo stuff, where you go, you know, it doesn't feel good straight away, and it feels a little bit good, then you sort of feel like you've completed it, and then you go back to your old things. And you
need to maintain it, you know, until it's stabilized. You can't just go and do things and stop.
There's a difference between the stomach, which is processing food that you've just eaten, and the microbiome of where that then passes and how that nutrients then begin to enter the bloodstream. I think there's a difference, because it's a pretty toxic environment where you're breaking down food. I mean, it's...
the stomach doesn't have any doesn't have any microbes. It should be sterile.
Well, it's like sulfuric acid in there. It's like
sometimes
it's not sulfuric acid.
What kind of acid?
It's bleach, I think.
Yeah. It depends what you've been eating, I think.
Hydrochloric acid, that is in the but it's supposed to kill everything.
Yeah,
that's the thing, you know. Some people don't have enough to kill.
I did watch a show where they took the acid from, like, people's stomachs, quite a lot of it, and they put it on a table, and it just
it burned right through
the table. It's like that stuff's inside us.
I think I've seen them do that with Coca-Cola.
That's why we have a special lining mucus on our gut, on our stomach, so it doesn't destroy us, because that acid is just
dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
There's another thing that I read about this, which is the actual transmogrification, that's a good word.
What?
Transmogrification.
Hang on, let me just check that one a second.
What does that mean?
Something
Transmogrification
changes from one status to another. It's like
in a surprising or magical manner, may I?
yeah,
ask?
that's right. From like basic food to be able to create like cells and create energy and create things that the body can then utilize is like a quantum physical.
That's what the bacteria does for you.
Yeah, but it's a quantum physical.
Actually, we can't do, apparently, we can't repair our gut ourselves. Like when you cut your skin, it heals itself. Your body has the ability to heal itself. But when you have a leaky gut, you can't heal it yourself. You haven't got the abilities. It's the microbes that come and do that for you.
And you have to make sure that your microbes are functioning healthily in order to deal with that. So
Interesting.
What's important is it's not just what you are eating. It's important to identify what it is that you're not eating.
Yeah, you need to eat quite a variety of different fruit and
Eat
vegetables.
the rainbow. Eat
like
the rainbow.
30, somebody said like 30 different fruit and vegetables per day is a good idea. I don't know how. Well, there was a suggestion.
You wonder why people feel like it's some distant dream.
Maybe not a day, but like when you go shopping, look around in the shop and see maybe what is a vegetable that I don't know anything about. Maybe and I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna find a way to cook it or eat it.
Or another meat feast, pizza.
No. No.
Yeah, but you know what? You could do it in smoothies and things like that. You could do it. I mean, like you could get a lot of people do that nowadays, don't they? They put most of their fruit and veg and they just whisk it all up and then they just drink it. I suppose it's a quicker and easier way of getting your intake per day.
I think something that this is where I get into sort of recently I've taken up being a vegetarian. And something that, you know, comes into it is the monitoring what it is that what you're eating and reflecting on how it makes your body feel, but also that it doesn't need, like for me personally, like my pathway into vegetarianism was lowering it. And I think that's the key, is moderating these things. It's not to say like, you can have a smoothie in the morning, you know you're getting all those vitamins and those minerals and those good bacteria, but it doesn't mean that you can't then have a packet of crisps if you fancy it every now and again. Do you know what I mean? Like it has to be achievable, and I don't think perfection is a good sort of thing to put up there on a pedestal and say, you know, you're going to smash it and you're going to do everything you need to do.
There's no such thing as perfection.
You know, the other interesting thing is that there are like about 120, I think it is, or 130 vegetables on offer to us, but there are way more than 3, 4, 5,000 plants which are edible on the planet, and we don't even know about them.
No,
and yet they can be vital to our needs.
This is
we
where
just go in and we have white cabbage, bit of lettuce, tomato, like celery if you're lucky, but like no, it's like it's not easy because supermarkets sell what makes profit. They don't sell.
Well, this is what, you know, when you're trying to integrate these changes into your life, it's why everything then becomes important in terms of your own individual setup, because you might be rushing around and you might feel like you don't have time to cook these foods and blah, blah, blah. So you're grabbing things from supermarkets that are absolutely poaching, but they're preying on your setup, as it were. And it's difficult to implement these changes and know what to eat, because it's like stinging nettle. You can make a stinging nettle, you know, like tea, or soup and things like that, but I don't see stinging nettles on sale in my local
you can
Sainsbury's,
pick it from your local garden.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But
not the ones close to the path, because dogs might have been around there. But
people don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like there isn't this awareness of the massive amount of nutrients and minerals and vitamins and stuff that we have access to that just simply isn't in the places that you'd normally look. Like one I've read up about is cmos. You can get you can get cmos from the sort of algae, I think, or and it's meant to be, you know,
cmos is actually a small battery that helps to keep the memory of a computer running even when you don't have any power. That's what cmos is.
Did a crossword last night, Dad. So what's a computer? Oh no, don't worry about it. We're in the middle of the video.
Yeah. So if your gut is leaky, your blood-brain barrier is also leaky. Now, this blood-brain barrier is another barrier that the brain has, which is, if you think about the gut being like a sieve, and it might be a little bit like a bigger kind of sieve with bigger holes, the blood-brain barrier is with the finest mesh. So only tiny bits can go through that to enter the brain, because obviously we don't want to have any bad stuff going in there. So, but when the gut is leaky, this blood-brain barrier is also leaky. And in that case, all of them things that have leaked out of the gut, you know, we're talking about these toxins and, you know, other things, bits of protein maybe, on whatever, all of these will go into the brain. They go into the brain, and what do they do there? Inflammation, because they don't belong in the brain. And so this leads to disruption in the serotonin and dopamine response. So you don't, even though you might have those neurotransmitters, you can't react to them because of this inflammation. So they can't, the brain can't actually access serotonin and dopamine. So you end up having a brain on fire, which is a depressed brain. A brain on fire is a depressed brain. I like this sentence.
This brain is on fire.
No, of course.
So your first step is to heal the gut. And how I like that idea, Otis, what you said.
Yeah, I like that.
You notice not the song, the keeping of a diary. So if you're not sure what's going on, you know, what food is good for you or not, and what's happening with your digestion, and how that affects your mental state, why not start doing a food diary? Anything that you put into your mouth, you write it down.
That's a good idea.
But you also start, say for example, today is Tuesday. In the morning, I ate lemon and ginger in my water. I had a tea.
Well, you're going to say a lemon cheesecake.
At what time, and then how, and then for every time you eat, and then just say, okay, my level of energy is this, and my happiness level is such. You decide whether 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, or however you want to measure it, so as long as it just you can track it. Then after that, at 10 o'clock, I had a toast. How is my energy level, say at 12 o'clock after I've had the toast? So kind of tracking it down, and you will realize, your body will tell you what kind of bread it was. If it was a white bread, how am I feeling after having white bread with butter? Or how am I feeling if I had porridge with kefir? In my case, how do I feel after I've had kombucha? Because it turned out this kombucha for me actually was doing more disruption than it was helping.
That's work in progress, isn't it?
Well, it seems to be proven. Or having beer, even alcohol-free, you know, in my case, it seems that I have too much histamine in my system. And if I add 2 more fermented foods, that's more histamine. I need to figure out how to increase the absorption of histamine and the reduction of it in my system.
Coming back to that, just one thing before you move on. Coming back to that, look how much space is in the supermarkets is allocated to alcohol, bread,
a lot,
patisserie, and ready meals.
Yeah, a lot.
It's like that is huge, and that's serving a need, because people's needs have been fueled by supermarkets
lifestyle,
providing ease of producing a meal.
Do you know what?
And numbing out life.
Yeah,
I mean, to be honest, that's
influence.
right. I years ago, I would go straight to the ready meals, wouldn't even buy any really fresh stuff unless I really liked it. I'd go straight to all the stuff that was just easy to make. But once, Dad, you taught me a little bit about how quick it is to make a sauce for any base of any meal, you know, and just learning. It's just so easy, and because it's fresh, you know what's going in your food. I mean, I don't use any of them jar, you know, you've got the dolmio sauces or anything like that to make curries or whatever. I don't use any of them no more. I like years ago, I was buying all that. So I'd have all my jars out and, you know, I'm thinking, oh, which one am I going to have tonight? Oh, chicken tonight. Do you remember the chicken tonight they used to do? But you can make all them sauces and they're so easy and you know what you're eating and it makes you feel better when you've eaten it.
It has a knock-on effect. Like that's the thing I was saying earlier. Like when you learn how to cook and you learn how to make this stuff from scratch and you start doing it, and then when you're eating it and you know that you cooked it with love and you know that you're looking after your body with love, and then you know that you're experiencing mental health issues, all that happens is that when you stay consistent with doing that and you make a lifestyle change on a level that comes to, you know, cooking your own food and it helps with your mental health because you know you're ticking a box that is, I'm looking after myself, I'm doing this. And it's harder said than done. You know, I'm the first person to fall off the wagon when it comes
to me too,
self-sabotaging via not eating and things like that.
That's why it's helpful to have a freezer with stuff in it that you've made yourself, because there are days when it's just not practical or you don't feel like it, but then you've got that little reservoir there that you can just tap into, which carries you through those difficult days, because we all have them, you know, like up in the morning with the best of intent, something goes horribly wrong, the cooking of the dinner that you were going to do is like out the window.
The whole day's just got taken a crash.
And the bottle of drink comes out and the rest is history, you know, like, so we know
it happens.
We know what's going on, but you've got to try and create that environment where even though things aren't going swimmingly, because it's easy peasy lemon squeezy when everything's going well to carry on down that path. That's not where the hard work is. The hard work is where it goes wrong.
Yes,
it's interesting. When I had my kids and they were little, I would always do the cooking. And now that they've grown up, they can do their own cooking and they sometimes cook for me, most of the times actually. But I seem to be less inclined into cooking for myself. So it seems to me that you need to have the support system as well. So when you're not feeling quite, I'm not bothered to cook now, somebody else will be encouraging you to do so and to maybe not fall down the, you know, spiral down to eating, I don't know, sandwich and pizza and take away this and that.
It depends. It does depend on how you view, and it becomes a habit the more you practice it, how you view your cooking for yourself. I mean, I've been living on my own for ages, and I would think nothing of cooking a roast dinner for myself. People might say, well, that's a bit overindulgent, isn't it? Cooking a whole roast dinner just for yourself. But it's like, no, but that lasts me, like, I'll have the roast potatoes the next day with the
you can reuse food, and that's another thing, not wasting always.
And like then at the end you can chuck it all in and liquidize it and make a gravy out of it, or, you know, some starter for a chili or something. So but to say to yourself, I'm not worth it, it's like you have to get out of that. You only get out of that by habit.
Just to add on to that, something that I don't do this as much, but it comes into it a little bit. But when, say, for instance, you use this example of Miko, my cat that I had, or imagine it was your dog, right? When the vet says, oh, we need to monitor their diet and we need to manage how they're reacting to it and we need to manage what their stool looks like and what this is, you sit there from that place and you love that dog so damn much that you do all of that. You get down and you see what the shit looks like, and you do these. You go above and beyond for this dog because you love it so much, and that is the effort that you need to love yourself.
Love yourself, and
monitor. You know, track what it is, because otherwise.
By the way, there is also a chart for the human poo you know, what it looks like. And, you know, there's apparently a chart. I can't remember the name.
know
It was
exactly what you mean.
was
I
it
just
Brixton
saw
or
that out because
Berlin or something like that chart, which tells you, you observe what you've put out, and then you compare it to the picture of.
But there was that woman. What was her name? McKeith or McKenna or something? McKeith, I think her name is.
Oh yeah, something like that. Yeah.
You are what you eat, and she's like analysing her poo, and people are going, well, yeah, that's a bit OTT. You know, you have to clean the toilet first. I've done that last week just in preparation for this video. But
But that's another thing. If you're not pooping every day, at least twice a day, you'd better make sure you do, because constipation is a bad thing. I know for sure that if I haven't been to the toilet twice a day, I'm a moody cow the next day.
Really? Yes. So it affects your mood?
It does affect me.
You feel crap. Sorry to pun there, but you.
You kind of do. I mean, yeah. That's brilliant.
That was a very funny talk.
That was a good talk.
About poo.
Yeah.
So Desi, is there anything else you want to add to this?
I was going to say a suggestion might be that how have each of us, if we go round, implemented small changes to our diet that are able to be maintained and sustained. You know, like Dad's saying about having a reservoir. So that's something that I do. Me and Jen have got about 5 or 6 meals in the freezer ready for those days that are a bit tougher. I mean, it was 12 meals because we did a lot of bulk cooking, but that's something that you can do. You know, when you're having those bad days, it becomes a lot easier to just, you know, get something out of the freezer and warm it up and add a bit of rice to it, and boom, you're done.
Also, what I'd like to say is, anyone that watches this, please comment below and let us know what, you know, your experiences on your food and your gut and your brain and everything, and how it affects your mental health in general. I'd be very interested to hear. We all will. One
of the things, little change, just going on what you just said there, it's one of the little changes I made. It's not a tiny change, but it was significant. Now, I detected that when I was eating fruit during the day, it would stay in my stomach because the stomach's processing things in kind of an order. And if there was something that needed quite a lot of processing, like meat or bread or something like that, then the fruit would remain there and it would start to ferment, and you'd end up with gas and wind and stuff, and it's quite uncomfortable. So I learned and this was only when I was about 30, I learned that, or 35 actually, that if I ate fruit on an empty stomach, it got processed in 20 minutes. So what I started to do was I started to have fruit for breakfast. Now, I was a massive 2 eggs on toast man.
You was, I know.
Breakfast, right, with some tomatoes thrown in, and if there was the surplus in the garden, but and then I switched that from the 2 eggs on toast, which was it was a habit but a delicious one, to cold fruit, right, which wasn't my big thing, right? Fruit wasn't my big thing, but I had every day a banana and like maybe an apple or a pear when they're in season, or maybe if there was other stuff like strawberries or grapes or other things that were in season, when they were in season, as best as I could, I'd have an orange, because that's good vitamin C in the morning, and best from an orange in my opinion, rather than a carton. But that made a massive change, because it meant that first thing in the morning, I'd already had vitamin C, potassium from the banana, a lot of different things from either an apple or a pear or stuff. So I'm off to a rocking start, process, no gas, loving it. And then I was hungry for something else about an hour later.
Yeah. But do you still do your smoothies in the morning? Because you liked doing them, didn't you, at one stage?
I don't do them now because I love the fruit. I love eating fruit,
rather than mushing it up. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I still do them in the summer, but they're not a big thing in the winter, because in the winter you're limited by what you can get if you're buying fruits in season. I know you can get strawberries and passion fruits and all sorts of things all year round, but you're paying top dollar for those things. And part of this discussion, people are going to watch this and they're going to go, well, it's all very well for those people, but I can't afford to live healthily. And actually, if you're eating the foods that are in season, it isn't that expensive.
It's not.
You just
I'm
need
on a
to,
very low income and I can afford to buy fresh products.
things like I buy cabbage once a week, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not a big fan of the stalk, right? I'm not a big fan of that chunky stalk thing. But what I do is I slice it up and I chop it finely and I put it in a chili. So I'm not actually throwing away anything. The broccoli stem, all the cauliflower leaves, you can chuck those in any stewy thing and they'll just all soften up and they're all just as good as the main event.
Yeah.
But
I think
you
that's,
can use all of those things.
I might be getting into territory that's a little bit different again, but I think in supermarkets as well now, you've got the added issue of worrying about the quality and what nutrients are actually left over after the process that is getting them on the shelf. And I think that touches slightly on getting things in season, in which A, it's cheaper, B, it's not gone through a process of storage in order to provide it at a time when it doesn't naturally it tend to exist, and that can be really beneficial as well.
There is also something about the type of fruit and how it's grown, and the reason why we have such a that we've lost the diversity and the keystone strains. It's because of the type of fruit we have and the mass production of what they call now chemical farming instead of just a normal natural farming. So all these pesticides and things that have the crops have been sprayed with, they're staying in the produce, and we then eat it. And we don't feel poisoned straight away, but in the long run, all of these toxins, the body doesn't know what to do with them. The liver is struggling to find any way to get rid of them. It doesn't know, it doesn't recognize them. They just puts them up into some fat and stores them here and there, either inside itself or around the organs or around the midsection. So that's how we've lost. And before they've gone into the liver, they've gone through the gut and destroyed everything that's supposed to be there beneficial for us. So unfortunately, supermarkets are just profiting. They're not really thinking about our health.
Yeah.
So if you can grow your own one, and I had this revelation while I was watching this series documentary about the gut and the brain, and now that will be the last thing I say. They say that when people have mental health issues, depression, autism, all of that, they say that it's very beneficial for them to go and do some gardening. And they get a massive improvement on their mental health.
I did last year when I did it.
Why? Well, it just occurred to me while they're digging and touching the soil and breathing the little particles. What's happening is in the tablespoon of soil there is more microorganisms than there are people on the planet.
Wow.
So if you are digging and spoils, and these spores of some of these go under your nails, and even if you wash your hands, they're still there. As long as you don't use antibacterial sprays and all of them things that we've had to be, they were introduced just recently with this virus. That's how they got better, because they were taking those microbes and inhaling them through their skin, eating them. There are these probiotics. They can survive the gastric acid, and they can go through and then grow in, because they have this shell. That's what they call spore. They have this shell that survives the acid in the stomach, and they can go in the gut, and that's where that shell falls off. And then they you know, do what they need to do, and then we put them out, and then we heal them again, and it's like that, a circular thing. So that got me thinking, you know, if you have people who are having problems with their mental health, they usually be advised to go and do some gardening because it's healing to their soul. Well, it's healing because it might be healing because it's they're creating something that's also positive. It gives you this bonding oxytocin or whatever. You know, this is a plant you've made. It's because of you that this plant is now growing.
Yeah.
But it's also the digging and the making your hands dirty and all of that. It's amazing.
So everyone go and get stuck in some mud.
Yeah. Well, when I was little, when I was growing up, we were making mud pies. We had some newspaper, we had some mud, and then we put another newspaper, and that was our sandwich.
Well, they do it with children at school now. They do mud kitchens and things like that. It's also helping children in that way. It's good for your mental health.
I did it during the summer. I went down and did grounding every day. I went and just stood on the floor with my socks off and just like actually on the ground. And I don't know, I think that has something to be said for it as well. But
people go hugging trees, don't they? Hugging trees. That also is meant to be very spiritual and good for your.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah.
Oh, well, that's a vast topic, you know. That's a huge topic.
I mean, we could go on and we could go on and we could go on. But anyway, but what we're interested in, guys, is hearing
how
experiences. So if when you've watched the video, please once again, please comment below if you want to.
Maybe we can have another topic on how to
we probably will do on this one, because it's very there's so much more to talk about on this, but you know, we don't want to drag it on for people. But I hope you guys have found it interesting, and we'll be doing another recording next week.
Okay,
right, bye.
See you later. Bye.